What happens when a beloved country music legend faces off against one of television's most outspoken hosts in a confrontation nobody saw coming? The tension in the studio was thick enough to cut with a knife as Reba McEntire found herself in the hot seat on The View, facing questions that would push even the most seasoned performer to their breaking point. This wasn't just another celebrity interview. It was a clash of values, beliefs, and personalities that left the audience stunned and the internet buzzing for weeks. The morning began like any other episode. The hosts settled around the table with their coffee cups, expecting a routine conversation with the country superstar. Reba walked onto the set with her familiar grace and warm smile as the audience erupted in applause. She had been on the show before, and her past appearances had always been light-hearted and friendly. Joy Behar welcomed her with what looked like genuine warmth, and for a few minutes, everything seemed normal. Reba talked about her latest projects, her tour, and shared playful stories from life on the road. The atmosphere was relaxed, filled with laughter and easy conversation. But those familiar with Joy could sense something brewing. There was a glint in her eye, the sign that she had a deeper agenda. The shift began when Joy steered the discussion toward current events and political topics dominating the news. She framed the questions as casual curiosity, but Reba quickly found herself navigating sensitive subjects. She answered diplomatically, trying to stay above the fray, but Joy pushed harder. Her questions grew more pointed, probing Reba's personal beliefs and political stances. Reba stayed composed, but the tension in her smile revealed her discomfort. Whoopi Goldberg attempted to redirect the conversation toward safer ground, asking about Reba's family and collaborations, but Joy wasn't finished. The air grew heavy as the audience sensed something unusual was unfolding. After the commercial break, Joy launched into the most controversial moment of the interview. Leaning forward, she challenged Reba directly, questioning the wholesome image she had maintained throughout her career and hinting at hypocrisy in the people she supported. Reba maintained her professionalism, but everyone could see the interview had crossed into unfamiliar, uncomfortable territory. Joy pressed harder, accusing Reba of staying silent on important issues and implying that her refusal to speak out made her complicit. When Joy suggested that Reba's silence could be seen as cowardice, the audience gasped. The tension reached its peak as Reba's expression hardened. Her calm mask began to slip as she prepared to respond. No longer the easygoing guest who had walked in moments before. Reba's voice hardened as she stared Joy down. "I've been in this business longer than some of your viewers have been alive. I've faced criticism, setbacks, and personal tragedies that would have broken lesser people. Don't you dare question my courage. Then prove it." Joy snapped back. "Stop hiding behind this 'I'm just a singer' routine and take a stand on something that matters. Your silence on important issues isn't noble, it's selfish." Whoopi jumped in, raising her hands as if physically trying to calm the air around them. "Ladies, let's take it down a notch. We're all friends here. We can have this conversation without it getting personal." But Joy shook her head sharply. "No, Whoopi. This is exactly the conversation we need to have. Too many celebrities think they can stay in their lane and avoid taking responsibility for the influence they hold. Reba has built a career off the support of hardworking Americans, and now, when they need leaders, when they need voices, where is she?" Reba's eyes flashed. "How dare you suggest I built my career off anyone's back? I've worked for everything I have. I've earned every success through talent, hard work, and dedication. And as for speaking up, I do it through my music, through my actions, and through the way I treat people. I don't need to climb up on a political soapbox to prove my worth to you or anyone else." Music. Joy laughed, and the sound was sharp enough to cut glass. "Fancy was decades ago. When's the last time you wrote a song that challenged anyone to think? That pushed boundaries? That said anything about the real world? You've played it safe for so long. I'm not sure you remember what having an original thought even feels like. Asterisk, the studio fell silent. Even the camera operators stopped moving. Joy hadn't just crossed a line, she'd leapt over it. She had attacked Reba's identity, her artistry. It's the very foundation of her legacy. Asterisk Reba rose slowly, her chair scraping across the floor. Her face was a mask of contained fury. I've spent 40 years building relationships, creating music that touches people's lives, and maintaining my integrity. I don't need validation from someone who thinks being loud and controversial is the same thing as being relevant. Asterisk Joy opened her mouth, but Reba raised her hand, mirroring Joy's earlier gesture. I'm not finished. You want to talk about cowardice? Let's talk about the cowardice of hiding behind a television show so you can attack people who are just trying to do their job. You want to lecture me about using my platform responsibly? Start by treating your guests with basic human decency instead of ambushing them for cheap ratings. Asterisk, the tension crackled like electricity. Joy's face was flushed, her breathing sharp as she stood to face Reba. Cheap ratings. You think this is about ratings? This is about accountability, something you clearly know nothing about. You've spent your entire career playing it safe, never risking anything. Never standing up for anything that might cost you even a single album sale. Asterisk, that's enough, Reba said, her voice slicing through Joy's tirade. You don't know the first thing about my career or the risks I've taken. You sit behind this desk every day throwing stones at people who are out there creating, building, contributing something meaningful to the world. What have you created lately, Joy? Besides division and negativity. Asterisk, the other hosts looked stricken. Sarah N. fidgeted with her cards. Alyssa Farah Griffin seemed to be deciding whether to intervene or brace for the explosion. Joy slammed her hand on the table so hard the mugs rattled. You want to know what I've created? Conversations that matter. I've held people accountable when they try to hide behind their celebrity to avoid taking positions on real issues. You think your little songs about heartbreak and small-town life are going to change the world? Wake up, Reba. The world has bigger problems than whether some cowboy left his girlfriend. Asterisk, my music has touched millions. Reba shot back, her voice rising for the first time. I've helped people through loss, through heartbreak, through the hardest moments of their lives. I've given them hope. I've given them strength. That's not nothing, Joy. That's everything. Asterisk, oh please, Joy scoffed. Spare me the sob story about your music saving lives. You know what would actually save lives? If celebrities like you stopped being so afraid of offending people that you refuse to speak out. Your silence isn't noble. It's cowardly, and honestly, it's disgusting. Asterisk, the word disgusting hung in the room like smoke. Reba's hands trembled, not with fear, but with restrained fury. She had been attacked before, but never this personally, never this publicly. Joy had torn into her character, her career, her artistry, and now her core humanity. Asterisk Reba leaned forward, her voice quiet but scorching. You know what's disgusting? What's disgusting, Reba continued, her voice low and steady, is a person who thinks being cruel and disrespectful somehow makes them a champion of justice. What's disgusting is someone who believes tearing others down counts as building something meaningful. What's disgusting is this entire conversation, and I refuse to be part of it for one more second. Asterisk Joy leaned forward, refusing to yield. Oh, so now you're going to run away? Just like you've been running from real responsibility your entire career. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The moment things get difficult, the moment someone challenges you to be better, you walk away. Asterisk, I'm not walking away from a challenge, Reba said as she reached for her purse beside her chair. "I'm walking away from a bully. There's a difference, though I don't expect you to understand it." Whoopi finally found her voice, stepping in as the tension rose past anything the show had ever seen. "Reba, please. Let's take a breath. Joy, maybe we should move on to something else." But Joy was unmoved. "No, Whoopi. This is important. This is the kind of conversation America needs to have. We need to stop coddling celebrities who think they can just smile pretty and avoid taking responsibility for the platform they've been given." Reba turned toward Joy one last time, her eyes blazing with a fierce, unrestrained clarity that made several audience members recoil. "You want to talk about responsibility? How about you take responsibility for the way you treat people? How about you take responsibility for turning what should have been a pleasant conversation into a personal attack? And how about you take responsibility for the fact that you've made this show unwatchable for anyone who doesn't share your particular flavor of self-righteous anger?" Self-righteous. Joy barked out a bitter laugh. That's rich coming from someone who thinks she's above having an opinion about anything that matters. I never said I was above having opinions, Reba replied. "I said it's none of your business what those opinions are. And it's certainly not your right to attack me for choosing to keep some things private. But since you're so desperate to hear one of my opinions, here's one. I think you're a bitter, miserable person who gets her kicks from dragging others down to your level." The studio erupted. Gasps, cheers, and scattered applause filled the air. Joy's mouth dropped open, stunned that the famously gracious country star had just annihilated her on live television. "How dare you?" Joy sputtered. "You don't know anything about me." "I know enough," Reba said, lifting her purse onto her shoulder. "I know that truly confident people don't need to tear others down to feel important. I know that people secure in their beliefs don't attack others for having different ones. And I know I've wasted enough of my time trying to be polite to someone who doesn't even understand what that word means." Joy was trembling now, shaking with fury. "You can't just walk out. We're in the middle of a live show." Reba paused at the edge of the set, looked back over her shoulder, and said, "Watch me." She turned and began walking toward the exit, each click of her heels echoing through the studio like a gunshot. The entire room fell into stunned silence. But Joy wasn't finished. In a moment of pure self-destruction, she shouted after her, "That's right, run away. Run back to your safe little bubble where nobody challenges you to think about anything beyond your next album sales. This is exactly why country music has become irrelevant." Reba stopped mid-step. Every sound in the studio died. Even the cameras seemed to freeze in place. Slowly, she turned around, and the look on her face was unlike anything the studio had ever seen. Gone was the performer. Gone was the polite guest. Gone was any trace of restraint. Irrelevant. She repeated quietly, her voice slicing through the silence. "You want to talk about irrelevant? Let's talk about a talk show host whose biggest claim to fame is being nasty to people more successful than she'll ever be. Let's talk about someone whose idea of meaningful conversation is throwing personal attacks and cheap shots." Joy's lips parted to respond. But Reba cut her off with a raised hand. "No. You've had your turn. Now it's mine. You want to know why I don't get political on television? Because I respect my audience. I respect their intelligence enough to let them make their own decisions without me telling them what to believe.